Number one story of the week comes from San Francisco. 49ers win a very close game in Seattle week one. But to me, the story was Christian McCaffrey's health. I mean, not only did he play, they let him carry it 22 times. They threw it to him 10 times. He looked very, very healthy. And so, as we already knew, anytime CMC is healthy, he is arguably fantasy's best player, at worst, top three. The pass game role is just so wild. And that's obviously going to be accentuated, as we saw in this game when Brandon Ayuk was out. Kittle went down early. Juwan Jennings went down. I mean, McCaffrey's expected fantasy points, in other words, what should he have scored based on his opportunity, is just lapping the entire field. So we need to get to the injury stuff in a second here, Evan. But first, what did you think of Christian McCaffrey's 2025 debut?
Very, very promising, especially with losing so many other skill position players around him. This was obviously a team that was one of the few teams that was severely affected by injuries in week one, the 49ers. The 49ers, by the way, were, according to adjusted games lost, which is an Aaron Schatz stat from Football Outsiders, they were the most injured team in the NFL last year. They're beginning 2025 as the most injured team in the NFL this year, which that's going to lead to massive usage projections and massive usage for him. And they still were able to get Brian Robinson 10 touches in this game. And I think that he will be involved to that extent, maybe 8 to 11 touches per game. But I would feel really good. I saw some people talking about how they didn't think that McCaffrey looked super explosive. You know, people haven't seen McCaffrey play a lot. He only played in 4 games last year. Recently, people haven't seen him recently. That's how he plays. He's really patient and instinctive, and he was, a difference maker against Seattle.
If you were re-ranking right now, and by the way, our rest of season top 150 will be up on Wednesday, as well as the in-season trade calculator for anyone with DraftKit Pro. My inclination on CMC is to have him in that group of the elite running backs: Saquon, Bijan, Gibbs, McCaffrey, and ahead of the wide receivers. I kind of thought that's how we should have running back up there anyways for redraft leagues. But after seeing him, if people wanted to rank him, first or second or third overall in the rest of season top 150, I would not argue with them. Evan, where would you take CMC at this point if you were redrafting today? It's only been a week.
I mean, I think that the concerns that I have for him were not a week one concern.
Yep.
They were always, forward looking, and whether he'll be able to hold up. Now his workload projection is higher than it was, even a week ago.
Yep.
So I don't know if he'll be able to hold up on that. So I would still have him like middle of the first round, but I would definitely have him in that first tier along with Bijan, Gibbs, and Saquon.
Okay, one of the biggest injuries of the week happened in San Francisco. George Kittle pulls his hamstring, and he only ran 13 routes. Okay, on his 13th route, he's pulled his hamstring. He already had 4 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown when he pulled his hamstring. They do not have great backup situations. Jake Tongas caught the game-winning touchdown. Kyle Juszczyk said he's been spending half of his time with the tight ends. They have some blocking types like Luke Farrell. But this is just removing another piece from a 49ers team. And then you also have Brock Purdy with a non-throwing shoulder injury and a toe injury. Juwan Jennings also got hurt in this game, although it sounds like his shoulder injury is not going to be a big deal. So the big one is obviously Purdy. We'll see how his toe is. Shoulder doesn't sound like a big deal. Kittle, though, went to IR. He's going to miss at least 4 weeks. And what do you think the fallout is from all of these 49ers injuries?
The real pain with Kittle is that in this kind of a spot, he would have been such a monster with, guys dropping like flies around him. But you're right, going to miss the next 4+ weeks. I'm concerned about this Brock Purdy thing, shoulder and toe injuries. Trent Williams left the game on Sunday with a leg injury. And I didn't watch the tape, but I read Matthew Barrows, who's covered the 49ers for a long time, and he said that Trent Williams was really struggling from both an on-field and physical standpoint. And the 49ers went out and they signed Kendrick Bourne. So they're already, throwing stuff at it to try to deal with all this. They're ravaged right now. They're I don't know. Maybe it's something in the water in San Francisco. Like they are in trouble right now from an injury standpoint, from a health standpoint. And again, like they're healthy on defense technically, but they're still running out a ton of rookies. I mean, they had rookies on defense playing accounting for 130 snaps on Sunday. Like, they're in a tough spot.
The good news for them is they get to play New Orleans next week, right? And so you're going to get pretty big projections on the guys that do play here. It starts to condense when you remove Kittle. Obviously, you remove Ayuk. Also, we'll see if Juwan Jennings is limited, but you're going to get huge projections here on CMC and maybe on Pearsall too. I don't know what you thought of his debut, Evan. He played mostly out wide.
Fantastic.
He played mostly out wide, very little slot, 4.108 on 7 targets. I thought he looked really good, and the box score could have been even better, but he's going to project pretty well here against the Saints coming up. So I think a pretty good start for your boy Pearsall, Evan.
Yeah, and he only got 7 targets. I think this is a guy who deserves 10 targets a game going forward. He went for 108 yards on 4 catches over his last 3 games now, dating back to last season. Ricky Pearsall, since overcoming his gunshot wound, 23 targets in those 3 games, 18 catches, super efficient, 318 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He deserves more targets. I think that they're going to build that into the game plan for him. We got to hold out hope that Brock Purdy is healthy. Mac Jones would be the next guy up.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones was the one that unlocked Brian Thomas last year. I'm not saying that Mac Jones is better than Brock Purdy or better than Trevor Lawrence, but Brian Thomas really started going nuts last year once Mac Jones took over, for what it's worth. All right. Let's go to story number 2. Has to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Jaguars dominate the Panthers at home in a game that was delayed for a long time for Lightning. Story of the game was Travis Etienne. We talked all summer about this Jaguars backfield and the way it was going to go in week 1. And by the way, they had to lead this entire game. Snaps were Etienne 40, Bigsby 14, LaQuint Allen 9, Bashal Tutin 4. Etienne led the way with 19 opportunities as well. Bigsby 5, Tutin 3, Allen 2. And then on Monday, Jaguars trade Tank Bigsby to the Eagles for a round 5 and round 6 pick, leaving Etienne, Bashal Tutin, LaQuint Allen. Now, I want to be clear, LaQuint Allen did play a bit more than Tutin, but LaQuint Allen was the clear pass down. 8 of his 9 snaps came on 3rd downs. And so the way that I see this going forward, Etienne is the clear feature back. Bashal Tutin is his backup and some change of pace stuff. And LaQuint Allen is their pass game specialist. We talked about this, Evan, how we had heard there were plenty of rumors that they were going to trade Bigsby. Comes to fruition here the Monday after week 1. What do you think of Etienne in week 1? How sustainable do you think that is? Keep in mind, he was playing the freaking Panthers, the historically worst pass defense, rush defense last season. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about Etienne, Tutin, LaQuint all going forward?
Historically bad run defense, and also lost one of their starting defensive tackles about 15 snaps into this game, the guy who starts next to Derek Brown, Wharton. So they were shorthanded and they were already poor in that regard. Travis Etienne was awesome, though. I don't want to take anything away from him. He hit a monster run, 71 yards. He had last year, he was bad. He was a bad player last year. His rushing yards below expectation. He was like minus 43 on the season, and he was plus 70 or something like that in this game alone. So he was adding to the runs himself, which is the sign of a productive runner. And I feel great about him. I mean, I think he's like a borderline RB1 now. And Pete Prisco, who, he's kind of like a shock jock type of guy for CBS. But, I mean, he knows football. I mean, he's definitely not an idiot. And he's covered the Jaguars more closely than any other team as long as he's been in the business. He put out a tweet last night talking about how he thinks that the Jaguars envision Bashal Tutin as their Bucky Irving. Remember, Liam Cohen was the OC for Bucky Irving's breakout last year and is now the head coach of the Jaguars. The Jaguars see Bashal Tutin as Bucky Irving eventually taking over, and maybe Travis Etienne filling the Rachaad White role. Now, that's a pretty bold projection, but that's something that you can sort of hang your hat on with Bashal Tutin. He's also one injury away, I believe, from being the Jaguars' feature back. I think that they see LaQuint Allen as a sort of Samaje Perine type of player where he's going to play in those passing situations, but they're not going to try to feed him the ball. If Bashal Tutin gets the opportunity to be fed the ball, I think he's going to capitalize. Remember, we talked about how crazy his athleticism and explosiveness is on the Adam Schefter podcast, who gets a bunch of nuggets from Pete Bomarito, the athletic trainer, and he was talking up Bashal Tune. Bashal Tune ran a 4.32 coming out of Virginia Tech.
Yeah. But look, if Etienne keeps playing like this, it's going to be his job, right? I mean, you don't go out and play the way Etienne did and then lose your job. My concern for Etienne stands is this was against the Panthers. Again, historically bad rush defense. And it looks like they're going to have that here again. And then you have two guys in the mix. But, you know, people are saying already Etienne was the steal of the draft. If you got him in the 10th round, you have the steal of the draft. It's hard for me to argue that right now, if somebody was offering me a first or second round running back, or even maybe a third round running back for Travis Etienne, I would certainly at least consider that. But yeah, I don't want to say it's like scripted, like Tutin's definitely going to take over the Bucky role. If Etienne keeps playing like this, it's his role. You know, it's his role. But yeah, great to remove Tank Bigsby from this situation for all these guys. Obviously, Etienne and Tutin here, especially the one injury away list is an important one for anyone playing season long. These are the kind of guys I like to have on my bench. Bashal Tutin, as Evan said, one injury away now from a really, really, really good role. Also in this game, Evan, was Travis Hunter's NFL debut. He played 42 of 66 snaps on offense. He only played 6 of 64 snaps on defense. Routes on Trevor Lawrence's 33 dropbacks were BTJ, Brian Thomas, 33, De'Ami Brown, 28, Travis Hunter, 27, Parker Washington, 6. I thought Travis Hunter was used mostly in the slot, kind of how I expected, mostly in the slot. His average depth of target was just 7.3 yards. It was 4.0 yards in the preseason. Hunter did come close to one really big play downfield, which should have been a touchdown. But yeah, mostly a short area slot role right now. A lot of good first read stuff for him. And people are saying, Evan, the Hunter usage actually did affect Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas did not look like a priority player or a priority target for Trevor Lawrence. More first read looks for Travis Hunter. So, Evan, what do you think of Travis Hunter's debut and any concern for you on Brian Thomas Jr.?
Oh, I strongly disagree with that sentiment. I mean, strongly. And you know who else does is Liam Cohen. Did you see Liam Cohen's rant after the game?
I did not.
Yeah. I don't want to say that he threw Trevor Lawrence under the bus, but he was like, we had this opportunity to get the ball to Brian Thomas.
Right.
This was played for Brian Thomas. We did this, setting this up for Brian Thomas, and we didn't hit it. This happened. So, Brian Thomas, you want to see him have more than 7 targets. Okay, Trevor Lawrence only had 19 completions. I mean, they missed some opportunities for Brian Thomas. They also got him, an end around or a handoff for a 9-yard touchdown. Brian Thomas is going to be fine. They are absolutely scheming up plays for Brian Thomas. Liam Cohen made that clear in his post-game press conference. But Travis Hunter is awesome, and they're going to scheme up plays for him as well. That's going to have the number 2 pick in the draft. He was 44 snaps on offense, 6 on defense. Travis Hunter is primarily an offensive player. He also played a bunch in the slot.
Yeah. Is it concern you at all that Trevor Lawrence struggled a bit here in a spot that I thought he'd perform really well? Because I have a bunch of Hunter, I have a bunch of De'Ami, I have a bunch of Brian Thomas, and I have a bunch of Strange also. They were all okay, but I'm just a little worried. Trevor Lawrence has never been a good fantasy quarterback, and he did not have a good performance here. Any concern for you on T-Law after week 1?
Yeah, I was expecting more from him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was a disappointing showing from Trevor Lawrence in this game.
Jaguars Bengals on Sunday is going to be a really, really interesting game for sure in terms of offenses engaging with each
that's
other.
going to be another huge opportunity for Trevor Lawrence.
Let's go to number 3 story of the week. It is the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins go to Indianapolis for week 1. This is when they're supposed to perform well. It's a dome. They're healthy. And they just got absolutely wrecked. I mean, Tua looked like he was drunk out there. He was picked off twice. He posted a QBR of 2.7. The Dolphins scored 0 points until fourth quarter garbage time. And that touchdown came on a heroic play from Devon Achane to just get them into the end zone. There is a lot of panic out there around the Dolphins right now, Evan. People are saying they're the worst team in the league. They're not going to be able to sustain any offense. How worried are you about the Miami Dolphins after week 1?
Leading into the season, there became like a hive mind, like group think, like, oh man, the bottom could fall out on the Dolphins. And when that happens, I kind of like I'm tempted to like push back against that, and we kind of did in week 1, saying that we had a level of expectation for the Dolphins against the Colts, and that was wrong. And it looks like the group think, which we definitely played up. We were in on that. We had Tyreek
Yeah.
real low. We expressed all kinds of caution about the Dolphins, but this was really bad. This was about as bad as you can possibly imagine. And they have multiple offensive line injuries now. Austin Jackson starting right tackle. He's essentially the left tackle for Tua because Tua is left-handed, undergoing tests for a toe injury. James Daniels, the Dolphins' right guard, pec strain, out multiple weeks. Tyreek Hill is like yelling at people on the sideline.
Yeah.
It came out that his like estranged wife accused him of 8 different incidents of domestic violence in divorce court filings. There's already trade rumors involving him to the Steelers and to the Chiefs. I haven't looked at the odds, but I got to believe that Mike McDaniel is the favorite to be the first coach fired. This is the wheels are coming off this, and they're coming off quick.
Man, I love Mike McDaniel. I know that he's done a really bad job here over the last 1 to 2 years or whatever. And I guess the sentiment is the nerd stuff, the super, intellectual stuff, that all works great when you're winning. When you start losing, like a leader of men, it's hard, and so I would not be surprised at all if he does end up canned soon. Something else that wouldn't. Sorry, go ahead, Evan.
Oh, I wasn't even gonna say. I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
I'll tell you what though. When that kind of thing happens, you got guys like Rex Ryan on ESPN, and it shouldn't matter what Rex Ryan says, but when you're Stephen Ross and you're the Dolphins owner and you're watching the pregame and you see your head coach getting made fun of and called a nerd boy on national television, like that can matter to an owner. Okay, so and Rex Ryan did that. Yeah. I just the wheels are all they may already be off. They're gonna clean house. Chris Greer needs to go. Another big problem with the Dolphins is their defense sucks.
Right.
They got ravaged on defense by Daniel Jones. Colts was Daniel Jones the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy? No, probably Josh Allen, right?
Josh was, but on the main slate it was Jones and Fields were like neck and neck.
Yeah, that's right. Daniel Jones went off. Maybe the best game of his career. And during the game, the Dolphins lost their number 1 cornerback, Storm Duck, which, that's funny in of itself, to a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are screwed.
Yeah. So, by the way, Mike McDaniel, if you do get fired, we're in the business of hiring nerd boys here, as Rex Ryan said. So don't hesitate to reach out, Mike McDaniel, if you do get fired. They play the Patriots next. One out here for Jalen Waddle is Tyreek Hill getting traded to the Chiefs. And I know that sounds like fantasy. That sounds like Madden, but they lost Xavier Worthy. We're going to get to that in a second. And that's how Tua staying healthy and McDaniel staying, I think, and Tyreek getting traded. That's how Waddle, I think, ends up still with a big year here. The A-Chan stuff, you see how he gets there. Just such a freak talent. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried about him as well. Home game against the Patriots next, then at Bills versus Jets for the Dolphins. Story number 4, let's go to the Washington football team. And everybody wanted to see what would happen with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He got very good news before the game, as Chris Rodriguez was a healthy scratch. In the game, Krosky-Merritt only played 33% of the snaps. He only got 50% of the running back carries. He only ran 19% of the routes. But he still had a really good fantasy day. And this is the way that he earns more. This is the way that he kind of takes over the backfield, by getting more than what was blocked and having a just really, really positive impact on the game. Evan, what do you think of Bill, a.k.a. BCM, a.k.a. JCM? What do you think of his debut and the Commanders' performance against the Giants?
He's a good athlete. He's not a great athlete. he's really good at like making all the right cuts. Like it seems like his vision is really, really good. He only had 10 touches. He had one target, 0 catches. So his fantasy day would have sucked if he hadn't scored a touchdown. But that's the thing about Chris Rodriguez being inactive. That sets up Ja'Cory Crosby to get carries in scoring position. He was PFF's highest graded rusher on the week. And the more carries you get, the more chances you get to rack up points in the way that they grade. And he only had 10 carries. So that goes to show he was maximizing what he had and adding on to the runs. And I would think that he's going to get more work. Now they've got on Thursday night, they got Green Bay. And Green Bay played lights out defense in week 1 against Detroit. So it'll be a little bit tougher test. He was going up against a very talented Giants defensive line in week 1, though. So credit where it's due. I want to see him get at least some work in the passing game. I just don't think that he's going to be able to survive on 10 carries a game.
Right.
Like that's really hard to live on.
It's the Brian Robinson role, right? Some version of the Brian Robinson role. And we thought Brian Robinson was, a 9th or 10th round pick, nothing to be too excited about. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt can be better than Brian Robinson, but still, like the way that he's used, lack of pass game, the Jaden Daniels stuff, it's going to cap him out, I think, on his fantasy points. But if I was, drafting today, I think, right where Brian Robinson was going around the 9th round would be fine by me, maybe 8th round or something like that on JCM. I also wanted to note Fat Debo, man, not fat. I thought he looked really good. He out-targeted Terry McLaurin 10-4. Now, McLaurin missed a ton of training camp time with the holdout, but still, Debo 10-4 in targets over McLaurin. He also had that 19-yard run. It looked like 49ers Debo, where he's just breaking tackles at this outrageous rate and dragging guys to score a touchdown. So I thought it was a really positive debut for Debo. Any thoughts on that, Evan, or any other Commanders' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take away anything from Debo, and I don't want to disagree harshly with what you said. I thought that play was really well blocked. I went back and watched that play a bunch of times actually because I wanted to break it down a little bit because I'm writing the I finished the Thursday night matchup preview, and I thought it was really well blocked. But you're right, he did break a tackle at the end, and just the fact that they're giving him that work right there, inside the red zone, throwing it to him, they got it blocked perfectly for him. And they execute. That's really nice. And the 10 targets are awesome. Very promising Washington debut for Debo Samuel.
All right, let's go to story 5, Kansas City Chiefs. So Chiefs lose to the Chargers in Brazil. Big story was another friendly fire injury. Remember last year, Patrick Mahomes ruined Rashee Rice's season. This year, it's Travis Kelce, this big bumbling buffoon, runs into Xavier Worthy and separates his shoulder, it sounds like. Now, it sounds like Worthy is going to try to play through a separated shoulder without doing the surgery. I don't know, man. I would consider Xavier Worthy day-to-day for now, but it could end up being worse. I just have so much deja vu from last year where I had so much Rashee Rice and he was about to go off, and instead he's out for the year or whatever, however long he was out. And then Xavier Worthy, this year, if he ends up having the surgery, is going to miss a lot of time. The good news for me, at least, is I have a ton of Marquise Brown, and Marquise Brown went off after, at least on volume, after Xavier Worthy left. So, Evan, what was your thoughts on the Worthy injury, any other Chiefs wide receiver, tight end stuff?
The big bumbling buffoon. I wish somebody would tell Tay-Tay that. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I'm to the point where I believe that Hollywood Brown is just made of glass. So I don't know when. I feel great about the Rashee Rice stuff right now. I mean, when he comes back, dude is going to go nuts. I know that Xavier Worthy technically will be back by then, although I don't know. He's also really small. I mean, he was like 160 pounds coming out of Texas. We'll see if Hollywood Brown can hold up. I mean, when Rashee Rice comes back, this offense is going to be built around him, the passing offense at least. The first half for the Chiefs was brutal against the Chargers, and then they made some adjustments at halftime. It might have been because they built so much around Xavier Worthy, and then when he went out, like they went to halftime, they made adjustments, put everything on Patrick Mahomes' back, and I mean he really delivered. The Chargers had some big time breakdowns in the secondary. Guys got wide open. Like Travis Kelce on that touchdown was wide open. And Hollywood Brown also made a big play downfield where he was pretty wide open. But I feel real good about the way that Patrick Mahomes played and his ability to elevate teammates. As long as Hollywood Brown holds up, I mean, he's going to be an every week fantasy starter.
Yeah, and Mahomes dropped back 47 times. Marquise Brown ran 46 routes. Tyquan Thornton 38, Juju 38, Jason Brownlee 4. I mean, Rashee Rice is due back week 7 here, but yeah, I mean, Marquise Brown was getting a lot of short area stuff, and like that's what's been winning for the Chiefs over the last 2 years. No matter who it's been in short areas, the way that they have been winning. I also wanted to note the running back split. We knew that Kareem Hunt was going to play and be annoying. He played even more than I thought that he would. Pacheco played 31 snaps. Kareem Hunt 23 snaps. They both had 8 opportunities. Kareem Hunt handled both third downs and short yardage ahead of Isaiah Pacheco. So that was a bit of a, I mean, we weren't high on Pacheco for a lot of these reasons, but Kareem Hunt played even more than I thought that he would. So I think it's a pretty big concern here for Pacheco people, even though I think Kareem Hunt stinks. Like he looks so slow out there, but still, Evan, any thoughts on Chiefs running back right now?
Yeah, and I thought the Pacheco actually looked good.
Yeah.
But he's going to obviously need way more work than that. Also, they were down by a significant margin, and so the game script worked against Isaiah Pacheco. But you're right. I mean, it was like almost a near even split, wasn't it?
Almost,
in terms of playing time. So the 3 receiver set going forward until Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice get back: Hollywood Brown on the outside, Tyquan Thornton on the outside, Juju Smith-Schuster in the slot.
Yeah, and Travis Kelce, or the corpse of Travis Kelce, at tight end. It's just I thought Mahomes could have and he had a big fantasy day here, a lot on his legs, and because they were trailing. But yeah, like true getting back to Mahomes, top 5 fantasy quarterback is with this receiving core is not going to be in the cards, I don't think. Reminder, this show is indeed free, but if you want access to the Silva and I show on Friday night, or the Silva and I show on Sunday morning, or our projections, or Silva's matchups, or the rest of our DFS content, you do need our in-season product. Check out the in-season content schedule on the site for more details. Really think it's hard to play seriously without us. That is the in-season product at establishthерun.com. All right, let's go to the NFC here. We're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. Big story to me from this Cardinals win in New Orleans was they went to more of a running back committee than I thought that they would. James Conner, 43 snaps. Trey Benson, 22. James Conner, 21 routes. Trey Benson, 10. Opportunities were James Conner, 16. Trey Benson, 9. And even more importantly, DeMercado didn't play at all. And so it's only like 2 guys here. It's like Trey Benson can maybe have a smidge of standalone value, but I feel so good about his contingent value. And honestly, I liked James Conner. If I knew that Trey Benson was going to play this much, I would not have liked James Conner as a round 6 pick or wherever, round 5 pick, wherever he was going. So yeah, Evan, what do you think of the running back split in Arizona and any other Cardinals thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't think that there were indications that was going to happen. Trey Benson, so it was a little surprising, but Trey Benson busted a 52-yard run. He's got explosiveness. He ran 4.39 coming out of Florida State. He was a 66 pick in the draft, super early 3rd round pick. There were people that I trust that are talent evaluators that thought he was the best back in the draft in 2024. He can play in the passing game. He averaged over 11 yards per reception in college. That's a really, really nice number. He just had he was really slow out of the gate as a rookie, and James Conner is like a dog. So, and James Conner now is on the wrong side of 30. It makes all the sense in the world for the Cardinals to give Trey Benson 33% of the work, which is exactly what he got on Sunday. He should be rostered everywhere. I'm a little skeptical of the standalone value, but guys like him can become useful in season long when the bye weeks set in and they're coming. But I mean he could be awesome in the event that James Conner goes down.
The other story here was, much to my chagrin, as I have a pretty big fade on, but Evan was more on Marvin Harrison than I was. And Marvin Harrison and Kyler actually looked like they were on the same page. Actually looked like they had some good things going. The offense, I thought, still ran through Trey McBride in terms of first read stuff. Trey McBride got a 31% target share. Marvin Harrison only 6 targets here, but he turned that into 571. Evan, any thoughts on the Marvin Harrison 2025 debut?
Yeah, and he would have generated a lot more noise. People would be talking about him more. Marvin Harrison, that is, if Kyler Murray had not missed him for a while. He got behind the defense, wide open down the seam, and Kyler just missed him. So he could have had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns if Kyler would have hit him there. But yeah, promising first game for Marvin Harrison, and I'm feeling good about him. I'm with you that I think that the passing offense starts with Trey McBride, but there is room for 2 guys to be productive enough to be every week fantasy starters in this offense.
For sure. Michael Wilson and Zay Jones and these guys are not going to be earning a lot of targets.
No.
Let's go to the Atlanta Falcons. So Falcons lost a crazy game to the Bucs. Drake London sees 15 targets, but he turns that into just 55 yards on 8 catches. And then at the very end has a very catchable touchdown pass in his stomach, does Drake London, drops it and hurts his shoulder on the play. Doesn't sound overly serious, but we'll see. Evan, what do you think of Penix's first week 1 as a starter and the Drake London shoulder issue?
Yeah, I need to issue an apology to the people, the sports bettors out there, my fellow sports bettors, my fellow gamblers, that I was on the over in this game at 47.5. Now, had Young Ho Koo, with the score was 23-20 at the end. Had Young Ho Koo hit the game-tying field goal, we would have went to 46, and then it would have been a virtual lock that we got the over. Barring a tie, but yes, a virtual lock that we would have got the over had Young Ho Koo hit that field goal. So don't blame me, blame Young Ho Koo.
Yes, bad job by the Young Ho. There's no doubt.
By the Young Ho. The Falcons have an issue on Michael Penix's blind side. Michael Penix is left-handed. The Falcons lost Caleb McGarry right before the season. We talked about this injury. It kind of happened in a weird spot where it was almost too late to make major adjustments in fantasy. So many drafts had already been done. The timing of it was just horrible from all standpoints. They put in Elijah Wilkinson, who's played for like every team in the league, and he was a problem, both as a pass protector and in terms of the rushing offense, because the Falcons' rushing offense was highly unsuccessful. I think they had like a 25% success rate in this game. Now, Bijan still got there because he was awesome in the passing game. But this injury sucks, and there's like just nothing that the Falcons can do about it. You can't just go find a stud starter, off the scrap heap in week 2. So that's my big concern right now for the Falcons offense.
Well, I was actually impressed that Michael Penix went for 298 yards and a touchdown, considering Drake London wasn't great. Darnell Mooney didn't play. At the end, he's throwing to Ray McLeod, Casey Washington, Cardale Hodge. Kyle Pitts, I thought, actually looked better than I thought that he would. But if Drake London's hurt and Darnell Mooney can't get back, they're going to need Kyle Pitts because their wide receiver core is absolutely awful. And they have to play at Minnesota next, which is going to be a much tougher task than this home game against the Bucs was. Vikings, of course, have one of the more talented defenses in the league. So, yeah, it's just I don't feel great about Falcons stuff right now.
I will feel better once Darnell Mooney comes back.
Yes, for sure. I will say Bijan as the pass game weapon. He had no big plays last year, was still awesome in fantasy. Right out of the gate this year, 50-yard touchdown catch. And these guys that can do that in the passing game are just incredibly valuable. So obviously Bijan, monster fantasy player. Let's go to
this offense though. It's just, they lose a couple guys, Caleb McGarry and Darnell Mooney. They're just hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
They have to go down to Elijah Wilkinson on Michael Penix's blind side. They have to go down to Casey Washington and Cardale Hodge behind Darnell Mooney. They're just so thin. But anyways.
All right. Let's go to the Carolina Panthers. This looked like the bad Bryce, right? Maybe not as bad as he was early last year when he got benched, but it was certainly not good. Bryce Young, 18 of 35 for 154 yards, one touchdown, which was kind of fluky-ish to Chuba Hubbard, got picked off 2 times. So I thought that Bryce Young had turned the corner. I did not expect him to come out here in 2025 and look like early 2024 Bryce. Evan, how concerned are you after Bryce Young's week 1?
Very concerned. Very concerned. It takes me back to the concerns that we had after his rookie season. For the first half of his second season, he literally got benched.
For Andy Dalton.
And the vibes to me, it shook me when I saw that Ike Ekwonu, their left tackle, was out on Friday. I was like, oh boy, because we had talked him up positively a little bit. I had talked up Tet really positively, and just nobody delivered, except I guess Chuba Hubbard, maybe just because he got a receiving touchdown. I mean, he did have 19 touches. That's nice. He had 3 catches, but nobody delivered on Carolina. I mean, what do they average, like 4 yards a play? I mean, this was a really horrible offensive showing against a Jacksonville defense that I don't think anybody's intimidated of.
I did think that Tedero McMillan actually did have a really good game. He drew a pass interference.
He's a baller.
Play and come right out of the gate, lead the team in targets, be productive, draw pass interference. Like, he was open a bunch. I thought it was a really encouraging game for Tedero.
He made a sick catch downfield along the sideline.
Yeah. Like, if you have him in 4th round best ball or 5th round redraft or something like that, I still feel pretty good about having Tedero McMillan here on my team. The one guy that I think might just not be able to play is Xavier Legette. Maybe he's just not that good. He turned 7 targets into 10 yards in this game, and I'm worried that Legette, and I barely took him at all, but I did take some 16th, 17th round with Bryce Young stuff. I'm worried, he just sucks.
Yeah, me too. And I was doing the same thing, taking, because he would be available there a lot in the 17th and 18th round. I thought that they could maybe use him as like a Deebo Samuel style, quick hitter, manufactured touch guy. But I mean, if they're not going to do that, then he ain't gonna do anything. I mean, he's not like an NFL caliber route runner by any means. In this role, he sucks, no question.
Let's go to the Chicago Bears. Oh boy. The Ben Johnson era debut last night, home game against the Vikings. I thought it started off well. Caleb was taking what was there. He was completing short passes. He looked much more comfortable. Then the wheels just completely come off. He can't do anything. He's throwing hospital balls to DJ Moore. He's sailing balls. He's really inaccurate on some throws. I guess the good news was he looked really mobile, 6 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown. But Evan, people are going to say Caleb Williams is not him, and therefore the Bears are in big trouble. What do you think of Caleb and the Bears last night?
You don't think that Caleb Williams is the H1M?
Is that? No, I don't actually.
Yeah, I don't either, man. Yeah, it was tough. I mean, the scripted plays were working, At the same time, I was getting texts from people, oh, man, he looks great. Oh, what do you mean you were skeptical of Caleb Williams? I didn't really think he was, making big-time throws in the first half. The scripted plays were working, though. The offense was, they scored a touchdown on defense. The offense was it was moving. They were scoring points. They had, a 17-6 lead at one point in the
on the pick six, it was 17-6.
Yeah, on the pick 6 in the third quarter, right. 17-6. They were feeling good, and then the bottom just fell out. Caleb Williams missed so many second half throws. It was incredible. I mean, you could look at the memes or the highlight clips on Twitter, and it wasn't like he was just missing them by a small margin. He was missing them by yards.
Yeah.
And he wound up having the highest off-target throw rate of any quarterback in the NFL in week 1. And even some of the decent throws that he made, he looks late. And I think that this goes back to the processing thing. I thought Ben Johnson's offense looked great, by the way. The scripted stuff obviously worked, and he was getting guys open. Guys were open, and Caleb Williams was flat missing them. There is a stat going around from True Media where since the beginning of of last season, Caleb Williams has something like 52 overthrows of intended targets, and the next closest guy in the league is at like 39 over that same span. Like Caleb Williams' accuracy is a big problem, and I think it stems from he's just always a beat late. Like again, even on his quality completions, it looks like he's late.
This was a game against Brian Flores, who can really confuse quarterbacks and really scheme defense, and a very talented Vikings defense. So I don't want to like throw away the key on Caleb Williams and the Bears offense here already, but it's certainly the accuracy stuff is certainly concerning. They do get to play Lions, Cowboys, Raiders their next 3 games, then at Commanders, then they play Saints. They also have Bengals in the mix here coming up. So there's going to be some chances for Caleb to still have some big games here. One thing that I did notice was a lack of usage for the rookies. Cole Kmet outsnapped Colston Loveland 60-30 routes were Kmet 31, Loveland 21. And also Alameda Zacchaeus played way ahead of Luther Burden, who barely played here. I thought the usage for Roma Dunze was really good. DJ Moore could have had a much bigger game if Caleb was more accurate. So I was a little disappointed that the rookies didn't play more, especially Loveland used a 10th overall pick on him to play behind Cole Kmet. Is like, I don't think that's going to be that sticky, but it's not great. Any thoughts on wide receiver, tight end stuff from the Bears?
I didn't see the final participation on Cole Kmet versus Colston Loveland, but I know at one point, like Cole Kmet was doubling up Loveland in snaps.
Snaps were 60-38.
Okay. Another thing is like Ryan Poles like really screwed the pooch on the running back situation. DeAndre Swift is not a bell cow runner. I mean, like everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. And they didn't bring in anyone who could be the bell cow runner. I know, we kind of subscribe by the running backs don't matter sort of thing, but DeAndre Swift is like a certain type of a back, and he can be effective in that role. He is not a guy who you want to be giving the ball to 17 times on the ground against the Vikings. Like that's just ridiculous. And those tend to end up being wasted plays.
Yeah.
And that further puts, stuff on Caleb Williams' shoulders that he doesn't need when he's dealing with 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 8. I mean, Ryan Poles screwed that up.
Roschon Johnson was inactive here, so Swift got 54 of 67 snaps. Kyle Monangai, the 7th round rookie, only 9 snaps here for him. So yeah, messy for sure in Chicago. Let's go to the Dallas Cowboys. I know they lost this game, but man, it was such a brutal spot. Night game at Philly. I actually thought it was an encouraging game for the Cowboys. Dak played unreal. I mean, so many drops. I mean, forget like the opposite of Caleb Williams. Like Dak was putting the ball deep downfield on guys, and they were just dropping it. CeeDee Lamb should have had 200 plus yards. He finished with 7 catches, 110 yards here. So I'm actually like not worried at all about Cowboy stuff. And everybody knows I have this big George Pickens stand in best ball. He didn't like nothing was schemed to him. He didn't get a lot of first read stuff, but
he also had Quinyon Mitchell all over him.
Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell and the routes that he ran, they weren't clear out routes. Like he was still running routes that he should eventually get targets on. So I'm actually not worried about Pickens or Dallas stuff at all here. Evan, what do you think of their loss in Philly in the NFL opener?
Yeah, I have the exact same thoughts. I thought that Dak, the numbers don't look good really at all. I mean, he was 21-34 for 188 and 0 touchdowns. He wasn't good in fantasy, but I feel the exact same way. I thought he played lights out. CeeDee Lamb, it just goes to show what kind of volume he's going to get, that he had 4 brutal drops, and he still had 7 catches for 110 yards. He had 38% target share.
Yeah.
In this game. Who do they have coming up? Okay, they got the Giants coming up, but the Cowboys offensive line is healthy, and I think you'll be able to get after the Giants pass defense this year. I'm feeling great. I'm teeing all these guys up with confidence again.
Other big story from Dallas was the Javonte Williams stuff. So we knew Javonte Williams was going to be the starter, right? Especially Miles Sanders missed a lot of time in camp. Jaden Blue missed time as well. Jaden Blue ends up as a healthy scratch in week 1. They had Javonte, Miles Sanders, Hunter Lepke, the fullback, and also Kavonte Turpin all in the mix to take carries. By the way, Javonte Blue expected to be inactive again in week 2. Jaden Blue expected to be inactive again in week 2. Javonte Williams in week 1, 47 of 61 snaps, also ran 27 routes on 35 Dak Prescott dropbacks, handled all the goal line work. Now, he's not good, but I think that they like the reliability, and they had a bunch of really positive comments on Javonte Williams here, Evan. So I don't have like hardly any Javonte. I'm a little worried this could turn into a Rico Dowdle situation where he sucks, but he can still get 1,000 rushing yards over the course of 17 games and a bunch of touchdowns. Evan, any thoughts on Javonte and the Cowboys backfield right now?
Yeah, well, obviously Jalen Carter, the best defensive player on either side in this game, got ejected before the game for spitting on Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott talked after the game about as soon as they saw that happen, and Dak Prescott was shocked, like that Jalen Carter got kicked out, even though he was the guy who got spit on. He was like, they went and they changed their offensive game plan right away. Dak Prescott talked about this in his post-game press conference. And, they fed Javonte Williams out the gate. And that's not necessarily something that they were planning to do. Now, I mean, Javonte Williams didn't kill it. He had a long run of 11 on 15 carries. He averaged 3.6 yards per carry. But Miles Sanders, oh man, you want to talk about a guy who sucks. Miles Sanders. First, he gets caught. He has a long run. He gets sprung for a long run. He gets caught from behind by Zach Bond, the Eagles linebacker. Good linebacker, ran 4.65 coming out of college. Is probably slower now. Gets caught from behind by this guy. And then, plays later, in scoring position, Miles Sanders loses a brutal fumble.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Did they stick with Miles Sanders as the number 2? Did they give Jaden Blue a chance? Because Jaden Blue was a healthy scratch for this game. But, I mean, there's no question that if Miles Sanders had that opportunity out in the open field, that if Jaden Blue had that opportunity out in the open field that Miles Sanders did, Jaden Blue would have taken that to the house.
For sure. Yeah. And I hope that we do see Jaden Blue active over Miles Sanders here soon for sure. Lions. So this was the first game for the Lions without Ben Johnson, without Frank Ragnow, without Kevin Zeitler, and it was ugly. They generate just 13 points in Green Bay. They average just 3.8 yards per play. Evan, was this all because they lost Ben Johnson, or what do you think happened to the Lions offense up here in Green Bay in week 1?
Ooh, this was a scary one. Their offense got dominated. The defensive line of the Packers, which, I mean, time will tell whether they are going to be as good as they looked, but they were unbelievable in this game. On the edge, Michael Parsons only played 29 snaps, but he was a pressure machine. I mean, he led directly to a Jared Goff interception, just getting up in his face. Rashawn Gary was an animal. The defensive line, they traded Kenny Clark in the Micah Parsons deal. That might be addition by subtraction, because the other dudes, I mean, the Lions, who have a vaunted running game, they had very little running game in this game at all. Also, I really question the play calling of John Morton. John Morton is a guy we don't really know a lot about. He was the offensive coordinator for the Jets when their quarterback was Josh McCown and Bryce Petty in 2017. Of course, they were terrible. He's got more talent in Detroit. But, I mean, everything was so close to the line of scrimmage. They had, no explosive plays, so many, checkdowns to the running backs, only 11 combined targets to Amon-Ra and St. Brown and Jamison Williams, and that is criminal. 11 combined targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown should have had 11 targets alone. Ton of tight end and running back targets. And the interior offensive line, which is remade, former 6th-round pick Christian Mahogany, Tate Rutledge, and Graham Glasnow. They lost Frank Ragnow and Jackson to the Bears. I mean, they Kevin Zeitler. It's a remade interior offensive line. It was trash. It got destroyed by the Packers defensive line. And I don't know. That makes me a little bit worried for Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think at the end of the day, because of the PPR points, he was fine here. But I mean, we need this team scoring points. They scored 33 points a game
Yeah.
last year, and did they even score a touchdown in this game?
Well, the thing is, like, they've always been better indoors on the turf.
Yeah, they had the late touchdown to Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they're always better indoors on the turf. One thing about the Lions' success last year was I think they only played like one outdoor game or two outdoor games like all year. And this, maybe it was three. And this,
Yeah, but
if
it
you
was
go,
a beautiful day at Lambeau, though.
I hear you, but they'll be at home against the Bears next week on the fast track. If they struggle there, I'll start to get more concerned that Ben Johnson is like some savant that they cannot live without, But right now, people are saying Jared Goff is, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league if he doesn't have McVay or Ben Johnson. I'm not going to go that far yet to put that much of an emphasis on coaching.
One stat, this is from Shil Kapadia, our buddy from The Athletic. The Lions had a lower success rate as an offense in week 1 than in any game last year.
Yeah. Couple other personnel notes. Sam Laporta was rarely like a 90, 85% plus route guy last year. First game this year, Sam Laporta, 38 routes on 43 Jared Goff dropbacks. So really promising there for Sam Laporta. The other note is that Isaac Tesla only ran 3 routes in this game. Khalif Raymond ran 33. Right after the game, or maybe it was Monday, they came out and said they want to get Isaac Tesla more work. I mean, all this guy does is put on highlights preseason. And of course, the touchdown catch was insane in garbage time there in that game. So just something to watch there at the wide receiver 3 spot. Packers are next. I thought Jordan Love was actually really sharp here. It didn't show up in the box score because the Lions didn't show up, but Jordan Love, 16 of 22, 188 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Really, really sharp and impressive here. Evan, what do you think of Packers' performance in week 1 against the Lions?
Yeah, the Packers defense was just so dominant. This obviously goes hand in hand with the Lions analysis. Like,
yeah,
Packers didn't need to push to do anything. So
yeah,
they didn't do anything exciting on offense. I mean, we could talk about like Romeo Doubs played a ton of snaps, and they got the wide receiver rotation working again with Jalen Reed. He played 18 snaps. Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden played less than half of the snaps, by the way.
Yeah. So that was going to be my main takeaway here, was that even without Christian Watson, even with Jaden Reed banged up, and it was good to see Jaden Reed playing this game. I thought there was some real concern about the Jones fracture in his foot or whatever. Even then, it's just so flat in terms of participation. Jordan Love dropped back 23 times. Romeo Doubs, 17 routes. Matthew Golden, 13. Reed, 12. Wicks, 9. Malik Heath, 4. Savion Williams, 1. They're not stopping this wide receiver rotation thing. So guys are going to have to get there on limited volume and more on efficiency. You're rotating and it's run heavy and you have a pretty good defense. So I still like the Packers stuff. I have a bunch of Romeo Doubs at late cost, which is really good. The Matthew Golden stuff I still like, but he's going to have games like this, like when you're not in every route or even 80%
you can't
player.
play Matthew Golden in fantasy, though, until he gets like around 70% of the snaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he was at 44 or something here.
Yeah. Only 13 out of 23 routes. Yeah.
The non-Jordan Love skill position player who played the most snaps and ran the most routes in this game was Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft only had 4 targets. He scored a touchdown, but he only had 4 targets because, the Packers only threw the ball 22 times.
Yeah.
But I think that Tucker Kraft is a guy that you can lock in confidently as a low end to mid range tight end 1. He's going to be on the field a ton.
All right. Let's go to the Los Angeles Rams. So one of August's biggest stories was the status of Matthew Stafford's back. Not only did he look healthy, I thought, in week 1, he went 21 of 29, 245 yards and a touchdown. They also let Matthew Stafford do a quarterback sneak. That is not something that you let someone do if they have a really bad back. So I thought it was a really, really encouraging start for Matthew Stafford. And of course, when Matthew Stafford is healthy, Puka Nacua is going to be in the mix for fantasy wide receiver 1 overall. He played a lot of slot here with Cooper Kupp gone. Just such a good role. 38% of the targets, 10 catches, 130 yards. Puka's usage and ability is among the best in the NFL. And when Stafford is in there, I really think he might be fantasy's number 1 wide receiver at worst, number 2 or 3 with Jefferson and Chase and Lamb and all these guys. So, Evan, what do you think of Matthew Stafford and the Rams 2025 debut?
Yeah, Stafford played well. Nakua looked great, taking on a little bit more slot role. I think you mentioned that. Devontae Adams got shadowed by Derek Stingley, and that's always going to be difficult. Devontae Adams finished with 4 for 51 on 8 targets. Good news on the Rams offensive line. Alaric Jackson came back after only 1 week of practice, dealing with the blood clots, and performed admirably at left tackle. 2 pressures allowed on 34 pass blocking snaps. Bad news on the Rams offensive line. Both of the starting guards, Steve Avila and Kevin Dotson, suffered what sounds like high ankle sprains. They're both week to week with ankle injuries. That will be a situation to watch going forward for the Rams offensive line. Both starting guards with what sounds like severe ankle sprains.
Yeah, I mean, even though he was shadowed by Stingley, I thought it was good to see Puka and Adams combine for 19 of Stafford's 29 targets. Like, those guys can combine for so many targets here this season. I think both can be good as long as Stafford stays healthy. I'd also note every summer, Evan, it's the same thing. Oh, we're going to mix in more running backs. We're going to draft running backs. They don't. Chips are down. Kyron Williams, 20 opportunities in this game. Blake Corum, 2. Jarquez Hunter was inactive. So, just what they do. They love to give the ball to Kyron. Let's go to Minnesota Vikings last night. This was J.J. McCarthy's long-awaited NFL debut. Vikings are the team that I bet the most on in futures this year. And I'm not going to lie, the first half had me pretty worried. J.J. McCarthy looked bad. I mean, these college freaks were coming out being like, I told you J.J. McCarthy can't throw. He doesn't have an arm. I mean, and I was like, maybe they were right. In the first half, I was like, dude, maybe they were right. Like, J.J. McCarthy is really this bad. He throws this pick 6 that looked awful in the third quarter early. And then after that, something flipped where he just caught absolute fire. So, and finished really strong. So, Evan, what do you think of J.J. McCarthy's NFL debut and the Vikings?
Yeah, I had the same feeling about J.J. McCarthy over the course of the game. It's notable the Vikings did not have Christian Darrisaw, their stud left tackle, in this game. He's still coming back from torn ACL and MCL, so they started Justin School at left tackle. The Vikings were extremely run-heavy in this game. This was actually an argument that Leone and I had entering the season. I thought that they were going to be extremely run-heavy, maybe all season. That may change if J.J. McCarthy starts to play like he did in the fourth quarter going forward, because I think that Kevin O'Connell, at the end of the day, he wants to throw the ball. Actually, I was listening to Pete Bursich, who does the color commentary with Paul Allen for the Vikings. He was on the radio the other day, and he said the same thing. He was like, Kevin O'Connell wants to throw the ball.
Yeah.
But they came out of the gates, and they were extremely run-heavy. Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones were like 50-50 backfield. Whenever Aaron Jones is in the game, they're more likely to throw to their running back. But they want to use these guys, I think, almost interchangeably and on a 50-50 basis. And Jordan Mason wound up with 15 carries and a catch, and Aaron Jones wound up with 8 carries and 3 catches, including a touchdown. But, I mean, I think on a snap-by-snap basis, I think it was like 32-30 or something like that.
Yeah.
They were split by like 2 snaps.
I had a 30-28 Mason ahead. I was surprised that it wasn't more situational based. In other words, it was more like who's ever in there is going to run the running back play. It wasn't like, oh, this is a third down. Let's get Aaron Jones in there. This is short yardage. Let's get Jordan Mason in there. Aaron Jones got some short yardage opportunities in this game also. So they kind of, just like Evan said, I think view them more interchangeably than I thought. And it was more drive by drive, similar to what we'll talk about with Seattle in a second here, with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet going a bit drive by drive also, rather than individual roles. But I still think that Aaron Jones has the more fantasy friendly game. Like that play that Aaron Jones scored a touchdown on, that's not in Jordan Mason's bag, And so like just that Aaron Jones can do that makes him, I still think, pretty valuable. He also drew a pass interference call down the field, did Aaron Jones in the game also. Let's go to the Saints. So this was their home game opener against the Arizona Cardinals. It kind of went as expected. They got off 69 plays here against the Cardinals, Spencer Rattler dropped back 49 times. Efficiency is a disaster, but when you run that many plays and you drop back that many times, there's going to be fantasy points here, especially for Juwan Johnson. And everybody wants our Juwan Johnson take, Evan. Now, we talked about this. No Taysom Hill, no Foster Moreau. Juwan Johnson was going to play a ton. He was always going to play a ton. They also gave him a bunch of money this summer, which we talked about on one of the news shows also. So they clearly like him. He played 74 of 75 snaps. He ran 47 routes on 49 dropbacks. He lined up in the slot 34 times, did Juwan Johnson. So now people are asking, Evan, would you rather have Juwan Johnson or Tucker Kraft? Would you rather have Juwan Johnson or Dallas Goedert? Would you rather pick up Juwan Johnson or Harold Fannin, who we'll get to in a minute here? So, yeah, Evan, what do you think of Juwan Johnson and anything else Saints related?
I'm excited about him because I drafted him a ton as a tight end 3 in best ball. Because I didn't think he was going to be playing 90% of the snaps or 95 or whatever he did. But I thought there was a chance he'd get like 75, and I know he's athletic. He's just kind of a guy that like we've talked about, oh, well, maybe, Juwan Johnson, and then like he doesn't do anything. But I mean, He did something here, 8 for 76 on 11 targets. Underhill was telling me, Rattler has always had an affinity for Juwan Johnson. So I would start him over Tucker Kraft. Who was the other guys? Harold Fannin.
Goddard.
Yeah, I'd start him over all of them.
Okay.
And I really like Tucker Kraft. Juwan Johnson and Tucker Kraft would be maybe right there. But I'd start him overall, Juwan Johnson. He's going to be out there a ton. He's athletic. Rattler loves him. That's enough for me.
The other thing about this game was Chris Olave took some huge hits to the point where I think he went to the medical tent like 2 or 3 times, but he came back and ended up with a pretty usable, at least PPR stat line. This is how it's going to have to be for the Saints. 13 targets here for Olave, catches 7 balls for 54 yards. Rashid Shaheed's got 9 targets also. He only had 6 catches for 33 yards. These guys can make bigger plays. I don't know how likely it is with Rattler, but again, Kellen Moore's going to play fast. He's going to play throw heavy. He's going to scheme them somewhat open. And so I feel like the thesis kind of played out for those guys. And also, I should note, Alvin Kamara, monster roll, 59 out of 75 snaps here. Kendra Miller, 11. Devin Neal, 7.
One more thing on Chris Olave. I think this is from Rich Rebar. He ran a career high 41% of his routes in the slot in this game. That's really nice. That should eventually help his efficiency running more layup routes in the middle of the field. May also translate to some hits in the middle of the field. So beware. But that is something that Kellen Moore did with Devontae Smith in Philadelphia to get him an easier time. And I like to see that them doing that for Chris Olave.
For what it's worth, Saints play the 49ers next year. 49ers just got torched by Seahawks slot man Jackson Smith in Jigba. Let's go to the New York Giants. They go to Washington and put up 6 points. I mean, Russ Wilson's Giants debut was rough. 17 of 37, 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, takes 2 sacks. I thought it was interesting that after the game, Daboll was repeatedly asked, will Russ start in week 2? He gave a non-answer. Then he comes back on Monday and says, yes, Russ Wilson will start here in week 2. Evan, what do you think of Giants week 1 performance in Washington?
He's just being hard-headed. Brian Daboll is just being hard-headed because they don't – this is not going to work with Russell Wilson. And it could be as soon as – I mean, I thought that there was a chance that they could go to Dart in week 1.
Yeah.
Not to start, but I mean, like if Russell Wilson came out strong, what was the year that happened with? Was it Mike Glennon and Mitch Trubisky? Maybe
sounds
where they benched Mike Glennon like halfway through week 1.
The giraffe.
Yeah. I thought they didn't do that, obviously. But it will happen at any minute. I want to make sure Jackson Dart was the active number 2 backup, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think very soon it will be Dart starting and then Jameis Winston as the game day backup very, very soon.
Running backs, Tyrone Tracy played 50 snaps, Devin Singletary 10, Cam Scatterbo just 8. So I don't know how sticky that's going to be. It's not like Tracy was great or anything, but at least for now, Tracy is way ahead of these guys. Evan, would you keep holding Cam Scatabo on your bench.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like the way that he ran when what were his final stats? Oh God, 2 for -3. It came on a catch. He lowered his shoulder, he lowered his shoulder a few times and broke some tackles on a reception. Have you seen the? Oh, by the way, John Michael Schmitz, this Giants center who was a second-round pick in the draft, he is just absolute garbage. And they were playing without Andrew Thomas, their best offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So they were already playing without a full deck. The Giants were. Have you seen this nickname that Giants Twitter has come up for Tracy and Scatterbo?
No.
Cookies and cream.
Oh boy.
I guess Tyrone Tracy is the cookie, Scatterbo is the cream.
I got that. Yeah, I gathered that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
By the way, Malik Neighbors, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Everybody just throws to Malik Neighbors. 32% of the targets here for Malik Neighbors is just insane again. I don't want to panic on Darius Slayton, but 44 routes and 1 target is somewhat concerning on the sacrificial X stuff for Darius Slayton. But again, I want to get Jackson Dart in there. I do think Darius Slayton will have better days. Again, 44 routes in this game is at least a good sign. Let's go to the Philadelphia Eagles. So Eagles defending Super Bowl champs get the opener on Thursday night. We already talked about the Jalen Carter spitting thing immediately. I thought Jalen Hurts was really, really sharp in this game. They hang on to win 24-20. I guess the big story came on Monday, Evan, where they trade for Tank Bigsby. I think a lot of this has to do with Will Shipley breaking his rib, reportedly, in this game. And also, Bigsby's just better than A.J. Dillon. I do not think this has anything to do with Saquon Barkley. In fact, and I think Jack Miller pointed this out in one of his articles, if Tank Bigsby becomes the backup, it's actually better for Saquon because Tank Bigsby is not going to play in the pass game and on pass downs. Now we'll see on Will Shipley. But in this game, Saquon Barkley not only was obviously a beast running, but he also played in the 2-minute drill, saw 3 straight targets, had a couple good catches. So this narrative that Saquon Barkley can't play in the pass game, I think is wrong. In events where Jalen Hurts throws it and drops back a ton, which is not often, but when he does, I think Saquon can actually have pretty good receiving days. So anyways, Evan, what'd you think of the Bigsby trade and anything else from the Eagles game on Thursday night?
Yeah, some beat writer came out and said, by the way, a beat writer that I never heard of came out and said that he didn't think that the trade had anything to, the Tank Bigsby trade had anything to do with Will Shipley. And I'm like, of course it did.
I mean, how he's not giving up a 5th and 6th round pick just for Tank Bigsby to return kicks. That's not what they're going to do.
I don't, I wouldn't listen to that beat writer. Obviously it did. It's really hard for a running back to play with a freaking broken rib. Okay. You're taking shots to the rib all the time. And Will Shipley was really involved early in the last game and kind of crushed it on his few opportunities. So that was obvious that that trade had to do with Will Shipley. I think that once Will Shipley heals up, which is probably going to take a month, or 3 weeks or whatever, I think that he will get the number 2 running back job back. But they need another guy in the interim. And if again, Saquon has 1 million touches over the last, however many games. I
mean, they didn't back off Saquon at all here for what it's worth. 79% of the running back opportunities in this game for Saquon. He also handled 79% of the running back opportunities last year. And, Will Shipley left early, but they used Dillon a decent amount.
The guy we need to talk about is A.J. Brown.
Yeah, so people are saying it's because of his hamstring. He wasn't getting open because of his hamstring. He missed all his camp time. I just think this is how it can go sometimes when Jalen Hurts only drops back 20 times. That's just the way it goes sometimes for A.J. Brown. But yeah, what do you think about the A.J. Brown stuff?
Well, I thought all those things as well. And also the Cowboys played a soft zone coverage. Renner was saying that they played zone on every single one of their snaps. I think the official from PFF was 86%. Either way, the Cowboys were in zone coverage the entire game, and that's going to hurt your ability to go deep. It's also going to open up opportunities for Dallas Goedert in the middle of the field, and Dallas Goedert had a big game. I mean, he had 7 catches, and Jalen Hurts killed the Cowboys with his legs. So the Eagles did everything that they needed to do to defeat that soft zone
Yeah.
coverage. And then I listened to Matt Harmon talk about it, and he thinks that A.J. Brown is not right.
Right.
And A.J. Brown didn't miss a ton of time. It makes you wonder, like, God, we should have made a bigger deal about this.
Yeah.
But we kind of just thought he was just taking it easy in training camp. But he didn't practice hardly at all in training camp, and I'm a little bit concerned about A.J. Brown from a health standpoint right now.
I agree with you. I regret not thinking about this A.J. Brown thing more, because not only did you have the hamstring thing, but also there's some outcomes where the Eagles play just as good defense and run the ball just as well as they did last year and dominant games. And Jalen Hurts just does not have a lot of attempts. 23 attempts in this game for Jalen Hurts. It's hard to pay off a second round tag in fantasy if you're only dropping back 23 times in a game.
The good news is they got the Chiefs next, and the Chiefs secondary could be a big problem. We just saw Quentin Johnston go nuts against them. And the Eagles will be coming off a mini bye because they started on Thursday night. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm still starting A.J. Brown, but I am concerned.
Yeah. I mean, I think when Jalen Hurts is forced to throw a ton, but he'll be fine. It's just Jalen Hurts is not going to take what's not there. Like, he's very, very good at taking exactly what he should, not risking it. And why should you when you have one of the best defenses and one of the best run games and one of the best offensive lines in the whole league? Let's go to Seattle. Seahawks lose a very tight game here to 49ers. This fantasy story to me was the running back usage. Not only did the Seahawks give Jalen Milroe a carry, he could be a factor in short yardage at some point, but Kenneth Walker got outsnapped by Zach Charbonnet 30-21. He got outcarried by Charbonnet 12-10. Walker only ran 9 routes on 26 Darnold dropbacks. Now, shout out to Connor Evans on our data side team, who pointed out that really these guys were rotating series by series, and it just so happened that the series that Walker got were shorter, a lot of 3 and outs, than the series that Charbonnet got, which turned out to be longer. So I don't want to go too crazy on this, but the bottom line is they are rotating series by series. It's hard to pay off a 4th, 5th round tag if you're Kenneth Walker rotating evenly series by series with Zach Charbonnet. So Evan, how worried are you about Kenneth Walker, if at all, and anything else on the Seahawks?
Yeah, the reason that the drives that Kenneth Walker had were shorter because Kenneth Walker was in on them. Because Kenneth Walker had 24 yards on 13 touches.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, a lot of the optimism that I got from the preseason about maybe Seattle having a formidable interior offensive line, they were zapped in this game. Charbonnet also got stuffed a lot between the tackles, and he wound up having a fine game. He didn't get anything in the passing game, though. The one promising takeaway I had was on Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Who was a freaking – I think he led the NFL in target share in week 1. And he is not being pigeonholed into the slot. He's running more downfield routes. He had almost a 14-yard ADOT, and he's making plays downfield. By the way, Emeka Egbuka and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who both they played a certain role at Ohio State, and therefore they were sort of stereotyped as slot receiver chain movers. Both those guys are winning downfield. Emeka Egbuka won downfield in week 1 against the Falcons. Jackson Smith and Jigba won downfield plenty last year, and he won downfield against San Francisco. 9 for 124 on 13 targets, and that's in a game where Sam Darnold dropped back to pass only 23 times. JSN had 13 targets.
57% of the targets went to Jackson Smith and Jigba, just absolutely insane. And meanwhile, Cooper Kupp only saw 3 targets, 2 catches for 15 yards. So feel really good about the read we had on there. I had a bunch of people reach out to me and be like, why are you guys so low on Cooper Kupp? What is he dead? What's wrong? And it's just like, man, it's just toast, just toast.
He's dead.
All right. Last NFC team here is the Tampa Bay Bucks. Bucks win a crazy game, 23-20 in Atlanta. Great start for Evans, 1.01. Actually, Evans, 0.1 if you listen to the Joey Rudman, which hopefully everybody did listen to the Joey Rudman thing. If you're only on YouTube and not on Twitter, I promise you, get a Twitter account, find my page or find Evan's page on Twitter, and scroll back to the Joey Rudman impersonation of Silva.
I've got Jahmyr Gibbs at 1.01. I've got Emeka Egbuka at 0.01. because I want Emeka Egbuka in every single draft from right now until we're done. I mean, he's the new putting babies in bottoms guy.
It is 1,000% worth your time. Joey actually sent it to me late one night, and my wife was sleeping. And so I was listening to it on my phone with my headphones in, and I was laughing so hard that it woke her up. And she was like, "What are you laughing at? It's 1 o'clock in the morning." And I was like, I can't even explain it right now. It's so ridiculous. But shout out to Joey. Evan, what do you think of Joey's performance this year in his impersonation of you?
When I was walking down the street, I was like on a walk, and there's like a ton of people walking all the time where I live. And I was like listening to it on my headphones, and when he got to the Egbuka part, like I just lost it, like in the middle of the street, and like there's all these like moms walking their kids, walking around with the vests, the vests,
the Najee Harris vest. Yeah,
I was so embarrassed, like I couldn't contain myself. But the 0.1, that one really got me. Anyways, what are we talking about? The Buccaneers?
Shout out to Joey, yes, and Evan 0.1, and Emeka Egbuka, 4 catches, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. Egbuka also ran a team-high 36 routes. 19% of targets was roughly what we projected. I thought maybe it could have gotten to more, but still really solid in some version of the Godwin role. And clearly, like the rap was, Emeka Egbuka is ready to play and win right away, and nothing dissuaded that in week 1. So, Evan, what do you think of Egbuka and any other Bucs thoughts from week 1?
Yeah, again, like I was talking about with the JSN stuff, Egbuka, both of his touchdowns came on throws that were 20-plus yards downfield. The Bucs are kind of scrambling without Tristan Wirfs. Hopefully he is back sooner rather than later. What they did in this game was, instead of going to Charlie Heck, they moved Graham Barton, their starting center, to left tackle, which you don't see that. Although I do believe that Graham Barton played a ton of left tackle at Duke. But still, you don't see centers moving to left tackle in the NFL. And then they started Michael Jordan, not that Michael Jordan, but the younger Michael Jordan, who was part of their final cuts. They started him at left guard. And then they started Ben Bredeson, who was going to be their right guard, at center. Michael Jordan has played for 6 teams in 7 seasons. So they're really scrambling, and they kind of squeaked by in this one. I mean, they definitely squeaked by. They won by 3 points, and because Young Hoku couldn't hit that final field goal. But they're a little bit in dire straits offensively. We need Tristan Wirfs back. He makes a really big difference.
One other, I thought, relatively big story on the Bucs side was the Bucky Irving usage. So I thought there was some chance that Rachaad White would play a lot more because it wasn't late in the season, crunch time, and Sean Tucker they might mix in. They did not. Bucky Irving, who some people say is too small to be a feature back or whatever, 44 of 58 snaps. Rachaad White only got 14 snaps. Sean Tucker 2. Bucky 18 of 22 running back opportunities. So I know Bucky did not play well here from an efficiency standpoint, but feel really good about Bucky as kind of that late second round pick there. Let's move it over to the AFC now. Start with the Baltimore Ravens. Absolutely insane game on Sunday night against the Bills. Absolutely mind-numbing loss for the Ravens, who really, I thought, outplayed the Bills for pretty much the entire game until Derrick Henry's late fumble. But my God, Evan, I mean, Derrick Henry, 31 years old. Bills just could not stop him. 18 carries, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, his expected fantasy points, Derrick Henry, was like nothing, like 11, and he goes for 30. And this is just what Derrick Henry does every single year. Gets more than what is expected by a massive amount every single year, every single game, it seems like. Evan, what do you think of Ravens' epic, wild loss to the Bills on Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, incredible game. Josh Allen threw for 251 yards in the fourth quarter alone. I think it was Robert Mays recently who was talking about Derrick Henry, and he called him like an X-Man, like from the movies or whatever. I mean, he's definitely a superhero. He also never gets hurt.
Right.
He now has 107 career rushing touchdowns, the 6th most of all time. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know if you remember him coming out of Alabama. He was a 2nd-round pick, and some people thought that he should convert to fullback. Imagine that. Keaton Mitchell was scratched in this game, and I don't know if you saw John Harbaugh talking about it.
Yep.
But like that's not going to change anytime soon. It's not because Keaton Mitchell sucks. I love the explanation that John Harbaugh gave, though. It was so like clear, you know. People should just go try to find that. I think it's on Coach Speak Index, maybe. But he's going to be the fourth running back and inactive because they got Derrick Henry. They believe Justice Hill is one of the best third down backs in the league, and Rasheen Ali plays on special teams.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers had a 47% target share in this game. Leone and I and Ben Gretsch did an FFPC draft before the season, and we wound up being in the same draft as Scott Barrett, who was drafting, I think, like right next to us. And he knew that, you know, we were in there drafting, and like he was trying to taunt me with some of our, like, making fun of our picks. We took Zay Flowers in the 5th round, and he texted me, Zay Flowers, ... Yikes. Yikes, Scott Barrett, because Zay Flowers was the number 1 scoring fantasy receiver in week 1. And guess who has the lowest score in that league in week 1? Scott Barrett's team.
Revenge is a dish Evan likes to serve, I guess, is the way we can put it. Yeah, I don't know how sustainable the Zay stuff is in terms of earning that many targets. They certainly have a bunch of good players who did not get that many targets here, including Mark Andrews. I mean, everybody took a back seat to Zay Flowers in this game. They did run a lot of 2 tight end stuff with Mark Andrews and Charlie Kolar. Of course, Isaiah Likely was not ready to play here. So DeAndre Hopkins, only 12 routes. But yeah, I mean, also Lamar Jackson did not drop back a ton of times in this game. They were trying to run the clock out for a lot of it, but Lamar is just unstoppable also. I mean, my God, I can't believe that they didn't go for it on 4th down. I know that's like a tired subject. I'm tired of talking about it, but the RPO stuff with Lamar Jackson, like how often is he not getting you 1 or 2 yards that you need, either handing it to Henry or taking it on the RPO? So
I have not looked at the participation stuff for this game yet. And I drafted a ton of DeAndre Hopkins in like the 17th round. I actually had him in the top 150, and I got some pushback for that. I had him like way at the end of the top 150, but I just thought maybe he could score like 9 touchdowns, and I'd love to get. And he had an awesome touchdown catch in this game. Do you know how much he played?
Yeah, only 12 routes here in this game for DeAndre Hopkins.
All right. But at the same time, Lamar Jackson only dropped back 21 times.
Yeah, 22 dropbacks for Lamar and 12 routes for Hopkins. Yep.
Okay, I think I'd take over 50% route percentage on the year.
Okay, yeah. I don't want to panic on Mark Andrews at all. Like I said, this was like a crazy Zay Flowers outlier game. I still like Zay Flowers. I still think he'll be good. But obviously there's going to be chances for other guys, and I don't want to fully panic on Mark Andrews. Like, you're not going to Juwan Johnson over Mark Andrews, right,
no.
Evan? Okay.
I mean, Lamar Jackson had, 12 completions? 14 completions?
Yeah.
No, don't panic on him. But my thing on Zay Flowers has just been, this guy's a first-round pick, super prolific offense. This is his 3rd year. Why can't he take a big step forward? I mean, he's been good. He had 74 for 1059 and 4 touchdowns last year. Why can't he score 9 touchdowns this year and go for 1,200 yards and absolutely murder his ADP? I think that there's maybe more upside here than what he was given credit for. And he was going at a very affordable price in drafts because I think people just didn't think that he had upside for whatever reason.
I think he has upside on his skills, and he's an incredible player in terms of when he has the ball in his hands, getting open. It's just a volume thing for me, why it's hard for me to see him being like a top 20 overall fantasy player, or top 30 even overall fantasy player, because you have games where Lamar Jackson drops back 21 times or 22 times. But yeah, I think Zay Flowers is an awesome player, and obviously showed it on Sunday night. Speaking of Sunday night, let's go to the Bills. Crazy comeback. Evan mentioned the 200 and whatever passing yards for Josh Allen in the 4th quarter alone. They scored 22 4th quarter points to beat the Ravens 41-40. This was not a normal game. So I don't want to take this data from the Bills and go nuts. But it was a crazy second half breakout for Keon Coleman, who I was not on during the pre-draft process. I think Leone was, and maybe Evan was a little bit as well. I was not on Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman ended up running 50 routes on 53 Josh Allen dropbacks. Now, like I said, this was a wild game. Before it got wild, Keon Coleman was having a okay, not doing much kind of game. Then it gets real wild in the second half. So again, I don't want to overemphasize this, but still, great start for Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir also ran and was on the field for way more routes than usual. Evan, what do you think of the Bills' performance on Sunday night against the Ravens?
Yeah, speaking of Hall of Famers and superheroes, how about Josh Allen?
Yeah.
I mean, another guy who's on a Hall of Fame track, absolutely. He now has 66 career rushing touchdowns. That broke Thurman Thomas's all-time franchise record. Thurman Thomas is wearing a gold jacket.
Yeah.
Josh Allen probably will be someday.
Dude, just the game-winning drives alone, like he already has so many of these where he wins games late for them.
Yeah. And it's fun to think about, how polarizing a prospect that he was coming out of Wyoming for good reason, by the way. But yeah, the Keon Coleman stuff is exciting. Keon Coleman and I Kelvin Benjamin obviously flamed out of the NFL, but he did have a year where he went 63, 941, and 7. Another year where he went 73, 1,008, and 9. Why can't Keon Coleman do that? Very similar skill sets. I think that Keon Coleman's actually a better athlete, was a badass punt returner at Florida State, by the way. But why can't he be, actually Josh Allen was often compared actually by the Bills front office, which comes from Carolina, to Cam Newton coming out of college. Why can't Keon Coleman be to Josh Allen as Kelvin Benjamin was to Cam Newton?
Yeah. One thing that I did want to note here, it was condensed for wide receiver routes. And this is not often what we see from the Bills, but they had 50 routes for Keon Coleman, 46 for Khalil Shakir, 40 for Josh Palmer. And then the next closest was Elijah Moore with 7. Like the ancillary guys just barely played. And that's not normally what we see out of the Bills. So that's really good for Coleman, Shakir, and Palmer. I'd also note that Dalton Kincaid only ran 32 routes on 53 Josh Allen dropbacks. Dawson Knox ran 23. And my last usage note, as expected on James Cook, yeah, he got the big contract, but still only 48 out of 85 snaps, 56%. He's just a good player, caught 5 balls, makes a huge play on 51-yard catch, scores a touchdown. And so we had James Cook as like a solid round 3 pick. I had some concern there, but even with that kind of concerning usage, he still can pay off, I think, a round 3 tag here can James Cook.
Where was Dalton Kincaid in terms of routes?
32 routes out of 53 dropbacks. Dawson Knox had 23 routes.
Okay.
Let's go to Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, God. I torched so much money on the Bengals in DFS in week 1. Slow starts for the Bengals continue. I was wrong. I thought that they would be ready. The Bengals would be, that they'd come out and smash. And they should have lost this game to the Browns. Joe Burrow throws for 113 yards against the Cleveland Browns. They gained 7 yards in the entire second half. And this is like why Joe Burrow to us was way behind the other quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks. When he plays bad, it is unsalvageable. When Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, if they happen to play bad, they still salvage it with their legs. It's just not possible for Burrow, who completely torpedoed everyone who took him and Chase and T and everything in week 1. This has become standard, though, Evan, where they just flub week 1. I thought it'd be different this year after the way they handled preseason. I was wrong. What do you think of Bengals just face planting in Cleveland?
Scary. Scary for the hive mind that believed that Jamar Chase was the number 1 overall pick no matter what. Sucks for everybody, including myself, that was on this game, really on both sides. And it wound up being 17-16. I mean, it's crazy that the Steelers Jets, we'll get to that, but that was the game to be on, and this one was not.
Yeah.
But Joe Burrow dropped back to pass 26 times, took 3 sacks, and got hit 7 times. The offensive line, it's not like the offensive line is not an issue in Cincinnati anymore. It definitely is.
Well, the reason that I'd say I'm not concerned is that this happens every year. In 2023, week 1, Joe Burrow 3.2 DraftKings points. In 2024, Joe Burrow 8.1 DraftKings points. In 2025, 8.8 DraftKings points. And he went on to have huge seasons in all 3 of those. So I'm not panicked on it, but God, that was frustrating. Really, really frustrating. Other frustrating thing, maybe not frustrating, but small note, Mike Gesicki was out-routed by Noah Fant. Noah Fant ran 14 routes, Mike Gesicki 11. And the other note that I had, they want to just ride Chase Brown. I know he wasn't efficient here. I still thought he actually played a better game than the box score showed in terms of forcing missed tackles. But Chase Brown, 24 out of 26 running back opportunities. As I said, home game against the Jaguars coming up for the Bengals. Good spot to try to get right here for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Let's go to those Cleveland Browns. Like I said, I thought they should have won the game. I mean, I thought they really outplayed the Bengals. And they did it with tons of Joe Flacco volume as expected. We talked about this on the Sunday morning show and on Friday night. Joe Flacco dropped back 48 times against 21 called runs in a game that was close throughout. That's going to lead to a lot of volume for the pass catchers. Evan, what do you think of Browns' performance against the Bengals here?
Yeah, the game, the Bengals game, or the Browns game plan was exactly like we thought that it would be. It didn't produce very many points, but the game plan was exactly like we thought it would be, and that was good enough for 5 for 66 for Jerry Jeudy on 8 targets. Harold Fannin is the guy now everybody's talking about, although Njoku did play more than Harold Fannin.
Yeah. Well, why don't we pause there for a second, because this is one of the biggest waiver questions of the week. So I want to be clear. David Njoku's role was unchanged. David Njoku still played 84% of the snaps, ran 85% of the routes. They used Harold Fannin as their wide receiver 3. He led the team in targets with 9 and ran 65% of the routes. But it was really encouraging to me. A lot of times coaches will be like, let's just wait. We'll trade David Njoku later. We'll trade him closer to the deadline, and then we'll get Harold Fannin going. They're like, you know what? Let's just get Harold Fannin out there. So I'm pretty optimistic. Who would you add, Evan? Juwan Johnson or Fannin off the wire?
I would go with Juwan Johnson.
Okay.
I feel like there could be some Isaiah Likely to Harold Fannin, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't fully trust him because this doesn't happen very often where you can get 2 tight ends, especially in a bad offense.
Yeah.
2 tight ends that can be productive on the same team. It's very, very, very rare.
And you're not going to get to play the Bengals every week, right? I mean, Browns' next game coming up is at Baltimore. That is going to be a much tougher task for Harold Fannin to get loose and for Joe Flacco to get loose.
I thought it was very notable how Dylan Sampson severely outplayed Jerome Ford.
I had a ton of Dylan Sampson. I was really encouraged. He only ran 15 routes compared to Jerome Ford's 25. But on those 15 routes, Dylan Sampson caught 8 balls for 64 yards. They were trying to get him the ball. Remember, and Renner, man, I mean, this could be an all-time for Renner. We'll get to Caleb Johnson, but
Renner compared Dylan Sampson to Brian Westbrook.
Yeah, and he had Caleb Johnson as like one of the worst backs in the class, or like the 10th best in the class.
Right.
And now Caleb Johnson's playing behind Kenny Gainwell, which we'll get to in a second.
Everything Renner touches turns to gold.
I will say, though, one last note on Sampson here. Quinshon Judkins signed and could play as soon as week 2. Now, he could also be suspended. We could see Goodell step in here. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I just want to note that he is back and practicing, and we're probably going to have him projected in when projections come out on Wednesday. Last note I had on the Browns, Evan, I'm curious what you think about this. Last, I think, 5 games they've played together, Cedric Tillman has been outplaying Jerry Jeudy. I don't think it's crazy to think that Tillman could be just as good as Jerry Jeudy. What do you think about that dynamic there between those two guys?
Yeah, on the Sunday morning show, a bunch of the sharper dudes in the chat were talking up Cedric Tillman.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was a great idea, and it worked out. I think he was in – I know he was on some tournament team winning lineups.
Yes.
I don't know if he was in the Millie Maker, but he might have been. I know that he won some people money.
For sure.
And I think he's good. He's a big, physical ex-receiver. Flacco clearly loves him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of a stud.
Agreed. And my other concern for all this stuff is they're not going to stick with Flacco all year, right? So when I'm thinking about, Fannin versus Juwan or Tillman off other guys in the waiver, I want to play these guys when Flacco's in there. When they go to Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders, I don't know that I want to play these guys.
That's true.
So
they do have the Ravens coming up,
Yes.
and the Ravens look like they got some issues in the secondary. And the Browns are going to have to throw the ball again in that game. So get ready for another 45 pass attempts for Joe Flacco.
Yeah. I worry. Yeah. We'll talk about that game Friday night more. Okay. Denver Broncos. It was a mistake-prone 2025 debut for Bo Nix, 2 interceptions, lost a fumble. They still escaped with a win over the Titans. I thought one of the bigger fantasy stories was RJ Harvey. Only played 22 out of 76 snaps while J.K. Dobbins played 40. And, one thing that I didn't love was Tyler Batty also got 14 snaps. But RJ Harvey looked good, man. I mean, he made a huge play with that 50-yard run. He's going to earn more. So I still like having RJ Harvey on my team. Evan, what do you think of RJ Harvey's debut and the Broncos opener in week 1?
Yeah, he can definitely, he's got explosiveness. He's going to be, I think that people kind of like to make the comparison between J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, as it relates to Sean Payton, and then RJ Harvey and Alvin Kamara, which, I'm a little bit on board with that. It's just J.K. Dobbins is like the more trusted guy. He's going to play, and we trust him to pick up the blitz. And RJ Harvey is not there yet. And the Tyler Batty stuff is like really annoying. We kind of need him to go away.
Yeah.
And then we can trust both of the guys up top as fantasy starters.
Yeah. I mean, as of now, they don't trust RJ Harvey on passing downs. And so really he's just coming in behind J.K. Dobbins on base downs. My thought that was J.K. Dobbins would play like all the pass downs, not Batty. And RJ Harvey would get more in base. And I kind of think that's the way it'll trend as we move forward here. Other Broncos note for me, the Marvin Mims preseason usage where he was running every route was not sticky. On 43 Bo Nix dropbacks, Cortland Sutton ran 43 routes. But then after that, Troy Franklin second with 28, Marvin Mims 27, Trent Sherfield 16, Pat Bryant just 2. And so it's going to be tough for Marvin Mims on that kind of usage. But for season-long people, that was kind of the look we wanted to get. And if you have to move on from him, I think that's okay. I still think he can make plays on low volume, and you can start him on bye weeks or in a pinch. But if you have to drop him, I'm okay with that in shallower formats.
We should mention this was a rough game for Bo Nix, who got away with a bunch of turnover-worthy passes and finished with 176 yards on 40 attempts, which is abysmal. 4.4 yards per pass attempt. Just a really, really rough start. And I know that he was there's a lot of Bo Nix fanboys out there, and I get it.
Yeah.
But I think that that was a concerning start. The other concern, Evan Ingram, who left this game with a calf injury, he was playing less than Adam Troutman before he left.
Yeah.
And this was my concern. I had him on the shy away list, and people were like, whoa, Evan Ingram's not in your top 150? And I'm like, no, he's like tight end, 17 or something like that. And I only try to fit in like 15 tight ends in the top 150. And he was rotating with Adam Troutman, who Sean Payton has loved for forever throughout preseason, and then was playing behind him really in this game. So I would actually just drop Evan Ingram right now.
I mean, and I don't know how severe the injury is, but my concern and why I hardly have any Evan Ingram was he's a guy who needs volume. He's not like a big play guy. He needs like 10 targets, 11 targets, so he can go 8 for 60 or something like that. He's not getting that when Sean Payton, who's going to rotate all his guys other than Cortland Sutton. By the way, you know who did have a good game, Evan? This is how he retired. Nick Bonito, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. If anybody out there with a vote in Defensive Player of the Year is listening to this, just do yourself a favor. Pour yourself a cup of coffee, maybe a nice glass of wine, and watch some Nick Bonito tape. Defensive Player of the Year incoming 2020.
I have no doubt that many of the Associated Press voters are listening right now.
Let's go to the Houston Texans. So we talked about this on Friday and Sunday. We knew this was going to be a tough spot for the Houston Texans, going to LA to face this really strong Rams defensive line with the Texans' talent-devoid offensive line. No Christian Kirk. Running back room is a debacle. Texans hung in. They lost 14-9. I know Miami is all the rage now to talk about systemic risk. I have some systemic concerns with the Texans. They can't run the ball with this group, I don't think. They can't protect. They have a really good defense, but that's not great for fantasy. So I don't know, man. I'm a little worried on Texan stuff. Generally, what do you think of their loss to the Rams in week 1?
I'm a lot worried. Man. It's rough out there right now. This offensive line it's the worst in the league, and it might be in its own tier at the bottom of the offensive line rankings right now. They just lost their starting center too, Jake Andrews, to a high ankle sprain. Now they do have Notre Dame alumni Jarrett Patterson next up on the depth chart, and I think that he'll do a fine job. But losing your starting center right away, they shuffled their offensive line right before this game. They didn't know that their right guard, Ed Ingram, was going to be out. So they put Cam Robinson at left tackle. Cam Robinson has been a swinging gate left tackle for years and years and years. They moved who was going to be their starting left tackle, Irante Ursary, second-round rookie, to right tackle. And they moved their starting right tackle, Titus Howard, into right guard, like right before the game. It makes me worried about Nico Collins.
Yeah. I hate it. And like the other thing was this running back stuff. They had 4 running backs active. They used all of them. For the big back role, Nick Chubb outsnapped Dameon Pierce 32-7. For the passing back role, Dare Gunawable outsnapped Woody Marks 17-7. Why not? You traded up for Woody Marks ahead of Dylan Sampson. Why not use Woody Marks like the Browns used Dylan Sampson? Get the ball out quick, dump it off. Dump it off to Woody Marks and see what he can do. So maybe they'll make some changes there. I'm hopeful that they will. The other note that I had, Xavier Hutchinson and Justin Watson both ran more routes than Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel. And that was with Christian Kirk, of course, inactive for this game. So not a great start in terms of usage, at least, for Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Cade Stover also broke his foot in this game. That'll give Dalton Schultz a few more routes here, but tough to be excited about that. Let's go to the Indianapolis Colts. My old friend, Evan, everybody makes fun of me. I've become the Daniel Jones guy, but God, Daniel Jones was our best value for anyone with the in-season product subscription. Best value in our projections, price adjusted, was Daniel Jones. He goes off for 29.5 fantasy points, ran for 2 short touchdowns, which, they could have gone to Jonathan Taylor. He also shredded throwing, though, 22 of 29 for 272 and a touchdown. People are going to say this is all just because Miami defense is so bad. And we already talked about this. I don't disagree. Miami defense is so bad. But I do think Daniel Jones, man, in the right system, with the right weapons, can be effective enough to keep Tyler Warren, keep Michael Pittman, keep Jonathan Taylor as really, really strong fantasy assets. So people didn't think it was a big deal. Some people didn't think it was a big deal when they went from A-Rich to Dimes for these other guys. I think Jones proved in week 1 it is a big deal. What'd you think of Daniel Jones and the Colts here in week 1?
Oh, it makes the Colts look like they made the right pick by far. I mean, this was kind of controversial for them to go with Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson, but I think that's the way they planned it all along, and it looks great. Now, the Dolphins' defense, I think, is buns,
yes,
as the kids nowadays say. But but also doesn't that really reflect well on our projections that we had Daniel Jones as like the number 1 play in all of fantasy, and he was the number 1 play on a salary basis?
Shout out to us. Yes, it does.
Shout out to us.
Yes.
I have nothing to do with those, by the way. Shout out to the nerds.
The other thing that was exciting that we were on, Evan, leading up to the draft, and I know that at first I was on Colson Loveland more. Last month of the draft process, I was just like, man, Tyler Warren is such a smash. Hopefully you guys got on that. In his NFL debut, he ran 73% of the routes. He saw a team high 9 targets for a 31% share. They gave him a carry. He was Pro Football Focus's highest graded tight end on the week. I mean, as long as Daniel Jones is in there, I'm starting Tyler Warren and feel good about it in season long for sure.
Yep.
For sure. Shout out Penn State.
Absolutely.
The first half, and we were both on Jonathan Taylor big time in DFS this week. First half, Jonathan Taylor played on 43 of 43 first half snaps for the Colts. He got a bit banged up in the third quarter. They were up by so much. They went to get-ins for the rest of the game. And JT got vultured by Daniel Jones, couldn't punch it in a couple times. He caught a bunch of balls. They were scheming stuff to him in the pass game. Like, Jonathan Taylor's going to smash this year as long as Daniel Jones stays under center. Absolute smash and great usage there for him as well. So I'm excited about the Colts. The one guy that I'm concerned about on the Colts is Josh Downs, who played specifically in 3 wide receiver sets only as the slot man. It was Alec Pierce mostly on the outside, opposite Michael Pittman, and then A.D. Mitchell, the other guy, for a little bit on the outside. But yeah, you have concerns about Josh Downs' role here, Evan. It was concerning to me how few routes he ran, I guess.
Yeah, that is a major concern. That's a major concern because Tyler Warren's going to be on the field as much as he can handle.
Yeah. And
then they will use 2 tight ends. They will use Mo Alley-Cox as a blocker.
Yeah.
And anytime that Mo Alley-Cox is going to be in the game, Josh Downs is not going to be in the game.
Right.
So that is concerning. And it's also going to be a run-first team. Josh Downs, we like him. We love him as a talent. But, I mean, he needs volume as a slot receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're pulling snaps away from him. They're already not going to be a ton of pass attempts. It's very concerning for Josh Downs.
And Michael Pittman's a player, man. I mean, if you just go back, look at what Michael Pittman's done. He has been a good NFL wide receiver for a long time here. I know some of the data last year looks bad. He was playing through a crazy back injury last year that some people thought he should go on IR for. But, okay. Las Vegas Raiders. So, good win for the Raiders, man. They go to New England, get a good 20-13 win. The story was the Brock Bowers stuff. So, at halftime, Bowers had only played on 18 out of 29 snaps. Evan's boy, Michael Mayer, played 13. And Ian Thomas even got 6 snaps here. The second half, the usage was more of the same until he banged up his knee. But the thing is, it didn't matter. Brock Bowers still 5 catches, 103 yards on 8 targets, even though he left early with a knee injury that the team, and he says, is no big deal. So I actually thought that the preseason usage stuff was just like dumb noise and it wouldn't be sticking the regular season. His participation was down in week 1. It didn't matter. He still smashed. But yeah, Evan, do you have any concerns about the participation stuff now on Brock Bowers?
I guess it's technically not ideal, but he's so good.
Yeah.
And also Geno Smith balled out in this game. The Raiders had 9 completions of 20-plus yards against the Mike Vrabel defense. I mean, that is really impressive. So that quarterback upgrade, going from what he had last year with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew to Geno Smith, that in and of itself alleviates concerns about his snap count.
Yeah. No Christian Gonzalez, by the way, for the Patriots in this game, which I think mattered, one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Routes for wide receivers on 40 Geno dropbacks were Trey Tucker, 37, Jacoby Myers, 37, Dante Thornton, 25, Jack Besh, just 2. So, I mean, they were in a ton of 2 tight end sets as usual. The other question people are going to have, Evan, is the Ashton Genty stuff. 19 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown. The first thought that was going through my head, and I was too much of a coward to put it on Twitter, but the first thought going through my head was like, man, Ashton Genty, maybe it's not as easy when you're not playing Mary Lawrence School of Basket Weaving at 1 a.m. on Fox Sports 1. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not as easy. Penn State shut down Ashton Genty also, for what it's worth. Shout out Penn State in their playoff game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm worried about Ashton Genty. The usage was awesome, 54 of 63 snaps. He'll play better. He'll have easier spots, but the offensive line is a concern to me on Ashton Genty. Are you worried at all about the Genty NFL debut, Evan?
Well, Jerry Rice played at Mississippi Valley State. No, I mean, Ashton Genty, number 6 pick in the draft, going to get a ton of volume. Not worried.
Okay. They play Chargers, Commanders, Bears next, does Ashton Genty and the Raiders. Let's go to Chargers. So they beat the Chiefs, really good win in Brazil. And man, Justin Herbert was absolutely shredding. Like him, Dak, Jordan Love, I thought they were all awesome. Chargers called, the philosophy thing was what stood out to me. Chargers called 41 dropbacks in this game against just 16 running back carries in a game that they led wire to wire. And so, the pass rate over expectation stuff, we'll get it up by Wednesday. Their PROE is going to be really high, is the Chargers here. Maybe that's a matchup thing where they didn't want to try to run against KC's front. But yeah, Evan, what do you think of Justin Herbert and Chargers' performance there in Brazil?
Justin Herbert looked phenomenal. And I think it's important to remind people that he was playing through plantar fasciitis and suffered a high ankle sprain during the season last year. For some reason, Justin Herbert gets all this heat. I mean, what is
awesome.
Going on?
He's awesome.
He is awesome. And when he's 100%, which we really haven't seen. Remember that one year he played through his arm was like hanging off his body? I mean, when he's 100%, he played like an MVP player in this game. He's elevating teammates. I've always thought that the number one mark of like an elite quarterback is you are bringing the best out of your teammates and even making them better. Quentin Johnston had a monster game here. Tyler Conklin balled out. He's making Keenan Allen, the crust of Keenan Allen is resurrected from the tomb like Lazarus. I mean, Justin Herbert was an MVP player in week 1, and he looked fast, man. Actually, I had people texting me like, is it just me or does he look faster this year? He absolutely looks faster. He's not playing through plantar fasciitis and high ankle sprain anymore. He's an awesome athlete. You remember there was a stretch last year where he kind of was healthy and they started running him, and he was averaging like 40 yards a game or something like that. Well, he had 7 for 32 in this game. He had a 19-yarder.
Yeah, to win the game, And
to win the game.
Greg Roman's always going to encourage his quarterbacks to run, period.
Another really strong takeaway. You remember how people just plummeted the Chargers' offensive line in their rankings when Rashawn Slater went out? I'm telling you, they overreacted. Joe Alt in week 1 allowed 0 pressures. There were, obviously he replaced Rashawn Slater at left tackle. And there are a bunch of clips on Twitter of him just stoning Chris Jones. Joe Alt was a 2-time first-team All-American in college. He was the number 5 overall pick in the draft. The Chargers on the offensive line are going to be fine. They're going to have a top half of the league offensive line. I actually think that if Rashawn Slater had stayed in there, they might have been more run-heavy in week 1. But I think that they might think that their offensive line, the complexion of their offensive line is more suited for pass blocking now. And that helps Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey.
I'm curious what you thought of Omarion Hampton's debut, because the tape bros were out there saying Omarion Hampton sucks. He can't play. He doesn't even get what's blocked. The usage was encouraging, but Najee Harris was on a snap count of 12. In this game, Hampton played on 80% of the snaps, ran 61% of the routes, handled 17 of 19 RB carries. I think Najee Harris's role is going to grow. Evan might disagree, but what do you think about the tape bros' thoughts on Omarion Hampton, and do you think Najee Harris's role is going to grow here soon?
I think that what's going to happen is Omarion Hampton is going to run all over the Raiders in week 2, and then we won't have to talk about any of that anymore.
Okay, good. We need Omarion Hampton. Last note for me, Keandre Lambert-Smith and Trey Harris combined for 12 routes. Ladd McConkey, 38, Quentin Johnston, 36, Keenan Allen, 32. It's going to be hard for these rookies on the Chargers to crack that top group. I know everyone thinks Quentin Johnston sucks. I thought he sucked too, but he has played well, or at least reasonably, for the last, back half of last year through to week 1 here. So it's going to be tough for Trey Harris.
He's going to drop passes. Actually, he should have had 3 touchdowns. He dropped one in this game. He's going to drop passes. As long as the coaching staff is willing to live with him dropping like every 7th target, he's going to be productive because he's a monster and he's super athletic.
Let's go to the New England Patriots. This was a bad home loss for the Patriots to the Raiders. I mentioned no Christian Gonzalez, but they got absolutely shredded, as Evan mentioned, by Geno Smith for a ton of big plays. Fantasy story to me was the usage of Travion Henderson. Only 25 out of 71 snaps for Travion Henderson. Ramondre got 46, Antonio Gibson 5. But Travion ran a route on 18 of those 25 snaps. He caught all 6 of his targets. Patriots gave him 5 carries. And Ramondre Stevenson averaged just 2.1 yards per carry. So I thought it was pretty encouraging, despite muted usage for Travion Henderson. I thought it was really encouraging. Evan, what do you think of his debut and Patriots week 1 performance?
Yeah, his specific usage was encouraging, but I was expecting him to play more than that. So I was a little disappointed in it. At the end of the day, they're going to need him. I mean, Ramondre did nothing here, and they're going to need explosive plays. I mean, Steph Diggs is like their 4th receiver right now. They're going to need the explosive plays from Travion Henderson that he can provide. And now they got the Dolphins coming up. They might have the worst defense in the league. So I'm still feeling good about Travion Henderson looking forward, but I was expecting him to play more in week 1.
The other waiver guy we should mention is Kayshon Boutte, who has actually put together some really good box score stuff when he's been healthy with Drake May. Kayshon Boutte is not some geek off the street. I believe he was the number 1 high school recruit at one point, went to LSU, and then kind of got off track. But he's certainly a talented guy, and he's been putting up numbers lately. Would you be excited about adding him off waivers this week, Evan, Kayshon Boutte?
Yes, because I think that, and Drake May didn't play very well in week 1, but with that as a caveat. But I think that he has a chance to be the number one receiver for Drake May. Right now, that job is up for grabs, and Kayshon Boutte has now strung together a number of good performances dating back to the end of last season.
Yeah.
Kayshon Boutte, man, have you ever looked at his combine numbers? 4.5 at 5'11", 195 with a 29-inch vertical. That is horrible. Maybe he just didn't train for the combine or something like that, but that is brutal athleticism. But again, has a chance to, who else has brutal athleticism is like Kendrick Bourne. And Kendrick Bourne has had moments where he's been very useful in fantasy.
For sure. To echo Evan's point on Steph Diggs. So Steph Diggs only ran 37 routes on 53 Drake May dropbacks, and it was mostly outside. And that's what worries me. Like, yeah, he caught 6 for 57 on 7 targets, but at 15% target share at his age and his normal ADOT, like, he needs to play more and needs to see more targets. Pop Douglas can only play slot. He lined up there 35 times. Steph Diggs was only in the slot 11 times. So asking Steph Diggs to win outside at age 31 off an ACL tear is a scary bet to me, but that's the way he's being used right now is Steph Diggs. Let's go to the New York Jets. So impressed by Justin Fields in his debut against, I was just wrong. I thought Steelers would give Justin Fields a ton of problems. Shout out to Ataros. I talked about it on the solo pod a little bit. You can listen, but he won the Millie Maker on the 250 Millie on FanDuel with Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson, both at 1%. I honestly thought Justin Fields would struggle here, but listen to solo pod for more on that. But man, against one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, without Elijah Vera Tucker, with very little weaponry outside of Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields was throwing darts, 16 of 22 for 218 and a touchdown, didn't turn it over. And man, if we go back to last year with the Steelers, Justin Fields had a passer rating, nothing to do with rushing, a passer rating of 90 plus in 5 of his 6 starts for the Steelers last year. So I don't think he's a good thrower, but he can have these moments where he can really be accurate and really hit people in stride. Justin Fields, I feel so good about the season-long stance on him, obviously coming out of week 1. Evan, what do you think of Jet stuff here?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the report from Schefter, but the Bears offered Caleb Williams straight up for Justin Fields, and the Jets said no. That was actually a darn Schefter. But anyways, in one of my FFPC leagues with high school friends, we drafted Justin Fields, and they're like, "Oh God, why, Evan? You're making us draft Justin Fields." And so I got scared, just like you did. And so we picked up Daniel Jones, and we started him over Justin Fields.
It just shows in these like one QB redraft leagues, like there's so many quarterbacks to go around. I mean, you can get big games from Daniel Jones and Justin Fields. So yeah, and it was also obviously really encouraging for Garrett Wilson, who, as much Fields as I don't have a ton of Garrett Wilson. I just thought he was a bit expensive. When he started going in like the late 40s, I took him some, but when he was going in the 30s, I didn't really take Garrett Wilson at all, but certainly an encouraging access here. The other
41% target share.
Yeah. Other big story, Evan, was the Breece Hall usage. So snaps were relatively tight. Breece 37, Braylon Allen 20, Isaiah Davis 8. But opportunities, Breece Hall 23, including 4 targets, and Braylon Allen 6, no targets. So as much as they talked up Braylon Allen, when the chips were down, they tried to get the ball and wanted to get the ball and did get the ball to Breece Hall. What do you think of how running back went in week 1 for the Jets, Evan?
I thought it was good for people that drafted Breece Hall. I don't know how sticky that this is going to be for either of these offenses, the Jets and the Steelers. I still have my level of skepticism. But I'll tell you one thing. The Jets' offensive line, which became a concern as soon as they lost Elijah Vera Tucker for the season, right before the season, to a torn triceps. But the Jets' offensive line crushed in week 1. Armand Membu, their rookie right tackle, who went up against TJ Watt like the entire game. He allowed 0 pressures. They moved Joe Tipman from center to right guard to address Elijah Vera Tucker. Inserted Josh Myers, who used to be a starter on the Packers, a fine starter. He's now the starting center. And Olu Fashanu and John Simpson on the left side. And their offensive line killed against a really talented Steelers defensive front that, again, has TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward. I mean, that was a really promising performance, and that also is very promising for Breece Hall.
Let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this was, of course, Aaron Rodgers' Steelers debut, and he went nuts. 4 touchdowns on 22 of 30 passing. Almost a perfect passer rating in this game for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I thought that the Jets defense, like, not that great, but they were still second in yards per play allowed last season. I mean, they just got shredded by the crust, as Evan would say, of Aaron Rodgers. And he was throwing to like Calvin Austin and Ben Skoranek. What do you think of Aaron Rodgers putting huge number on the Jets here in week 1?
Yeah, I mean, he balled out, man. I mean, and he admitted that there was some revenge involved there. He's like, I just wanted to make everybody on the Jets pay. And he did. I mean, he did. And they won it on the 60-yard last-minute field goal by the Boz. Mike Tomlin's calling the Boz. He's like, our kicker is a serial killer. he said that. So awesome win for the Steelers. Again, I don't know how sticky that this is going to be. I really don't.
No.
Pittsburgh, they have a really good Seattle defense coming up.
Yeah.
That'll be a tougher test.
Totally agree. The one thing that I'm curious if you think is sticky, though, in this episode of As Arthur Smith Turns, the running back snaps were Jalen Warren 25, Kenny Gainwell 29, Caleb Johnson 2. Gainwell also ran 16 routes compared to 9 for Jalen Warren. I mean, I thought that there'd be weird stuff with Arthur Smith, and we did that offensive environment show, and I'm glad. I just was like, I'm not taking any Steelers, man. I don't want to deal with Arthur Smith. I'm not. And this is why Kenny Gainwell led them in snaps. Evan, what do you think of that? And do you think that is sticky?
Well, I never saw Kenneth Gainwell leading them in snaps in a particular game. But, I mean, I was on Jalen Warren as a guy. I drafted a ton of him, too, in best ball. I'm hopeful from a bias standpoint that he's able to keep this. But they can't go through the season, averaging 3 yards a carry or whatever they had. It was less than 3 yards a carry in this particular game. So you do wonder if at some point, if they keep doing that, then they're going to have to give the third-round rookie Caleb Johnson a chance. But right now, Jalen Warren is, clearly atop the depth chart. Kenneth Gainwell is playing a lot of snaps, and Caleb Johnson is buried.
What a mess. Last one we're going to do here today on this extra long week 1 team by team is the Tennessee Titans. So this was a very difficult spot to make your NFL debut for Cam Ward at Denver. I already mentioned the Nick Bonito stuff. Cam Ward, 12 of 28 for 112 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Calvin Ridley had some bad drops. There was a video of Cam Ward's dad was at the game, and when Calvin Ridley dropped that, he was like on his knees, like in pain. What do you think of Cam Ward's debut, and any other Titans thoughts here?
Yeah, we talked about this a lot on Friday and Sunday, and it was just the most impossible spot that you could possibly draw up. You have, Nick Bonino, you got Patrick Surtain on Calvin Ridley. You are on the road in Denver. This is your first ever NFL game. You only played 1 year of Division I college football. Before that, you were at Incarnate Word. I mean, I think Cam Ward, for all intents and purposes and all the context, handled himself awfully well in this game. And I know they only had, they technically had, 4 scoring drives because they kicked 4 field goals, I believe.
Yes, 4 field goals, yes.
Yes. But all things considered, if I was a Titans fan or, even a 2 quarterback league holder of Cam Ward, I would be very, very encouraged by what he did in week 1. And even Tony Pollard too.
Yeah. Cam Ward, to me, the negative was he didn't record any rushing stats. I believe he had 1 scramble called back by a penalty that I saw. But yeah, didn't record any rushing stats in this game. Keep an eye on that. The other note that I had was Io Minor played a ton. He had a 25% target share while running 28 routes. Ridley ran 38, Lockett 26, and then DK just 5. So, I mean, Elic Io Minor is coming to be the number 2 wide receiver for this team behind Calvin Ridley. And as Evan said, monster Tony Pollard usage as expected, 18 of 20 running back carries. better days ahead, although Titans have to play the Rams next. I mean, this is not an ideal way to start your season.
Brutal way to
Denver
start the season.
and then the Rams for the Titans. All right. Appreciate everyone being here. I know a lot of people sent messages, hey, where are the shows this week or last week? Where are the shows during the season, team by team, solo pod, rest season top 150. Evan and I are back on Friday night for in-season product subscribers only to talk about all the games and all the spots from a DFS perspective. And then we're also Sunday morning in-season product subscribers can access that right after inactives come out to answer questions and do as much as we can for takes there before lock. So check out in-season product if you have not yet. For producer Ryan, producer Luke, for everyone behind the scenes at ETR, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.